Welcome back to my channel, guys. Today we're going to talk about busy seasons, and as we're in December, this is the perfect topic because this is the true testament to all of your internal obstacles around perfectionism and staying on track with food and taking time off from the gym. Because whether it is the holiday season or birthday month or wedding season or going away for camping trips or holidays, whatever those normal kind of like higher social situations are, these are the things that are going to make or break your progress long term. Realistically, if you can only stay consistent when you're in complete control and you're cooking all of your food and you're hitting the gym consistently, you're really losing a lot of opportunity to learn how to feel good with your health and fitness goals when you are incorporating the things in that you actually want to enjoy. Most people, and probably if you're following me, you're not here because you want to force yourself to sacrifice all of the things that you enjoy in life just for your gym routine or to get a certain number of calories burned. You're actually here because you know that your health transforms from the inside out, and it's a value that you really want to stay consistent with no matter what's happening in life. And the old patterns of thought and the old processes that we've followed in the past that have served us in some ways are also usually the things that lead to the most inconsistency during these times. For example, I'm going to share with you a story about a former client of mine who was a surgeon and worked crazy shifts and had zero predictability and really struggled with just taking breaks to drink water and eat regularly throughout the day. And one of the biggest blocks that she had with her fitness goals was believing that if she couldn't train 4 to 5 times a week and eat 5 times a day, that it just wasn't going to happen for her and it wasn't worth it. And that approach of really being fully dedicated to something was something that obviously helped her excel in her career, and a mindset that definitely motivated her or put pressure on her in some ways to succeed. But oftentimes it kind of works against us in health and fitness. And if you're someone who had a really strict parent, or you kind of have that strict inner voice that tells you you just need to be better, usually you're shaming yourself to a degree that actually gives you less progress. But what we're trying to do deep down is to motivate ourselves or protect ourselves from disappointment and trying to get the ball rolling. But those are methods that usually we've been conditioned to adopt, or different approaches that we've been on the receiving end of in sports, in parenting, in all sorts of different areas of our lives that don't necessarily work when we're trying to be more compassionate with ourselves and find balance. So what I did with this client was build her a very simple 2 to 3 day a week quick training program that was 30 to 45 minutes, depending on what she could do, and some easy meals that she was able to eat on the go and not put a lot of effort into that still hit her micronutrient and her macronutrient needs. And throughout that process, she not only lost 30 pounds, but she built a stronger deadlift. She got her first chin up. She got to this place where she was the jacked 40-plus-year-old who finally had these pieces in place without actually changing anything about the demands of her life. And she was able to actually maintain this and get stronger afterwards. So this is just proof that if you're somebody who believes that if you can't give it 100% with all of this extra time and all of this extra energy that you might feel like you don't have, maybe check yourself a little bit, because it might actually be your approach that is leaving you feeling this way, or even just misinformation about how much you need to be doing to see success. Regardless, if you relate to that mentality and those busy seasons tend to break you, there's probably some perfectionist thinking at play. And it is just that mindset of, if I can't do it all, then I might as well do nothing. And we know logically that that doesn't make as much sense as just taking messy action, yet it's pretty difficult sometimes to change that and rewire the way we respond to those seasons of higher pressure. We just tend to get in these perfectionist traps where we have long gaps of really stalled progress, where sometimes we feel really ashamed and guilty around those seasons and tend to avoid looking at how long those gaps actually are in our lives. And when we are held to look at those things, we start to realize that that method of thinking, that perfectionist mentality, is the very thing that's leading to the most inconsistency rather than what we believe, which is to help us with the most success. Now, regardless of where you are with these perfectionist tendencies, most of us do rely on some sort of external motivating factor to give us the permission to start again. That could be Monday or a new month or a new training plan or New Year's Day. And we have this mindset that we're able to start with a clean slate in those moments, which is great. We should take full opportunity of that because I think most of us actually drag a lot of this toxic sludge from our past and the things that we need to let go of far too often. And it's difficult sometimes to be able to give ourselves permission to start again. But you do have the opportunity to start again in any moment. And I think that it's really important to remind yourself of that. Every hour, every minute, every day, you can choose to give that meaning and choose to make that your opportunity to begin again and to create some momentum rather than having to wait for a specific circumstance. And if you're someone who struggles with consistency year round, you have to remind yourself that your relationship with your health and fitness doesn't need to happen under very specific circumstances. It should be something that ebbs and flows during the year, and yes, has maybe more intense seasons of focus, but that you're able to be adaptable in those other weeks where things might not look the way that you would prefer them to look, and being okay with good enough, which is the biggest challenge for perfectionists, myself included. If you only show up when life looks ideal, you really only learn to reinforce that things can only look one way in order for you to see progress, which just reinforces that perfectionism. So your long-term goals with your health and fitness, with your physique, with your routines is likely going to show up when you learn to be 70% consistent and learn that something is better than nothing and adopt that finding the messy middle kind of approach that tends to be really challenging for us mentally. But kind of coming out of the mindset and perfectionist tendencies that we have in these seasons, let's talk a little bit about the science of maintenance, because this is the number one thing that people get worried about is, oh my God, I've missed a week of workouts, or I haven't tracked my food, or I've been eating all over the place, and I'm worried that I've lost my progress. But let's just focus a little bit more on the research behind actually maintaining your progress, because this is a common place where people tend to catastrophize if they've missed a couple workouts and they worry, I'm losing all my gains or I'm going to lose all my strength. It's going to be so hard to get started again. And I just want to gently call you out on that, because what we know is that it only takes about a third of our normal training volume to maintain our progress in the gym when we look at strength and hypertrophy specifically. The volume is your sets times your reps times your weight multiplied, and that gives us the total volume of what we've lifted in an exercise, in a workout, in a week. So if you drop that down to a third of your normal training volume, you'll be able to actually maintain your progress. Once you've built it, it just takes a lot less to keep it. So putting this into action, if you had 2 sets of heavy squats where you normally do 3 or 4, that's going to be able to hold your strength for weeks. Now, if you're somebody who has traditionally done a lot of cardiovascular activities and you anticipate coming back to the gym, losing that endurance and just feeling like you can't keep up in your workouts, that might be more so due to the fact that you're anticipating the loss of endurance rather than the loss of strength. So just be cautious how you differentiate that in your mind, because doing cardio is kind of like paying rent, and doing strength training is a little bit more like paying a mortgage. You're going to have a lot of interest accumulated. You are going to retain a lot more by paying that mortgage or doing that strength training than you will just in cardio alone. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to come back to your workout and be gassed and out of breath and feel like you might have lost a little bit of conditioning, but that can also be due to other factors like just getting back to your first couple of workouts or poor lifestyle and nutrition habits, especially over the holidays. I see that happen a lot. So don't make it have a lot of meaning necessarily about how much you've lost in the gym, because I see people get really down on themselves for no reason really because of this. Now, when it comes to the nitty-gritty of what you need to know about your strength training adjustments over the holidays or over any busy season, the most important thing for you to understand is that when you have good training intensity, you can accomplish more in less time. Now, that's not always possible if you're somebody who does shift work or you're not getting a lot of sleep, especially if you're not nourishing yourself properly, but you can achieve really, really great progress in 20-minute workouts, 30-minute workouts when you're hitting proper intensity. And we'd usually look at measuring that in terms of rating of perceived exertion, or RPE. So if you haven't been using an RPE scale and you don't know how to apply that to your training, definitely send me a message. I've got a couple free guides that can teach you how to incorporate this into your training in a way that can make it really simple. But that's one way you can be really accountable to yourself to make sure that you're getting the best progress that you can in less time in the gym and even less frequency. Now, what we know about frequency is that our ideal muscle growth and hypertrophy is going to come from 2 to 3 sessions per week, or training those muscle groups 2 to 3 times a week. I see a lot of clients who achieve really great progress in 3 full body workouts a week, or 2 upper days and 2 lower days per week. It really depends on what you have time for, what you enjoy, and what really fits within your work demands, your lifestyle, your schedule, and your needs. Now, if you do have to drop your training volume down because you have less time or less capacity for whatever reason to do so, focus a little bit more if you can on choosing a couple of compound lifts per muscle group. And again, compound lifts are those that work more than one joint at a time. They tend to be exercises that demand a little bit more from our bodies. Things like bench press and push-ups instead of pec flies. You're going to target your chest and your triceps in those exercises. So you're going to get more in a shorter period of time and be able to train more muscle groups. And that's going to allow you to have a little bit more of a well-rounded approach. So choose things like deadlifts, squats, lunges, pull-ups, rows, push-ups, overhead press. All those kinds of things are going to be a little bit more efficient in terms of your use of time than splitting everything up into isolation exercises where you target one muscle at a time, like a lateral raise for your delts and a bicep curl for your biceps. Now, outside of your training sessions at the gym, especially when you are limited in time and capacity, try to incorporate layering in lifestyle activities as much as possible, because that can make a huge difference. Getting more steps in, doing little mini stretch sessions at home, whatever you can do to try to maximize the time that you do have to just keep an active lifestyle and keep your body moving, because we tend to overcomplicate things and look at the gym as the only way to see progress. But when we're trying to maintain our energy expenditure, we're trying to maintain strength, we're trying to focus on mental health and those healthy behaviors that do help us create ripple effects to the other areas that allow us to manage our stress better and improve our mood and have a little bit more motivation to get to the gym. Those are the things that really are going to help in bigger ways than you might expect. So that's it for today. I hope you guys got some really great value out of this that you can bring into the holiday season and beyond that. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe and follow. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and don't be afraid to comment below.